and it was founded by composer Lawrence Ball, whom I'll be meeting in a few minutes, with the aim of tempting audiences back into concert venues to hear music which, despite being labelled contemporary, is unaggressive and orally appealing. Actually, its first concert tonight at 7:30 at the Conway Hall doesn't feature a contemporary composer at all. It's built around the music of Erik Satie. Part of Erik Satie's symphonic drama Socrate, the French name for Socrates, a performance by Music Projects London. And Satie's Socrate features tonight in the opening concert of the third annual Planet Tree Music Festival, whose founder and director Lawrence Ball is with me. Lawrence, a contemporary music festival, so why start with a dead composer?
Well, we're not so much interested in people who are alive just for the sake of featuring people who are alive. One of my big interests is to bring before the public eye composers who are neglected.
And Satie is influential on modern composers, contemporary composers.
Very much. I think much more than people realise. He's still relatively undiscovered in terms of the richness there.
I said there wasn't any contemporary music tonight. That's not true. It's John White, his songs on Satie texts, that's in the concert as well.
Indeed.
Now, what's the Planet Tree Music Festival all about? It's in your third year, so you should know by now.
Yes, well, it's basically that I feel there's a new branch of the cultural tree that needs to be growing in the world, and it's forging a very direct line in between pure commercial interest and music for its own sake that does end up alienating audiences.
Right, so commercial interest in that records, if they're tuneful, sell, and contemporary music in general is alienating audiences, yeah?
Yes, broadly, yes.
So how can you avoid doing that without being slashy or just sloppy?
Well, I think it's serious music, that is music with a sublime or a very expressive or spiritual purpose, can also be more accessible than the music we've had in this century. It's
a festival with an ecological flavour, isn't it? Because you've got Friends of the Earth involved.
That's right. Ever since we started, I feel very much we should... it's a way to mix audiences. It's a way to bring new people into each area. I think it's also a very important message they have to get across. And
what message?
Well, basically, we need to be more aware of what the state the Earth is in. I think the problem, as I see it, is people are not facing up to that.
How can music do something about that?
The juxtaposition of a presentation and music together, I think, does focus people, and it brings about a more open interest.
So there's some presentations by Friends of the Earth during the festival?
Yes, indeed.
Right. Now, another dead composer who's being featured in it is Sorabji, who is rather an extraordinary figure, isn't it? Tell me about him.
Well, he is a composer who didn't care for whether he was recognised or not. He was completely detached from that process. And
he was born a Parsi and he came to England.
I think he was born here.
Was he?
I think so.
Mm. Born in the late 19th century and lived to be nearly 100, and he died in 1988.
That's right, yes. I mean, his music is extremely individual and very rewarding to know. We're featuring a piece on the 13th, which is Le Jardin Parfumé, played by Yonty Solomon on that occasion.
The Perfumed Garden, a famous erotic work. Is it erotic music?
Well, it certainly has a very strong sensuality. It's pianissimo throughout. It's very delicate. It's incredible atmosphere. Very beautiful piece.
Yonty Solomon playing the opening of Le Jardin Parfumé, the Perfect Garden, by Kaikhosru Sarabji, work that features in a concert on Friday the 13th of November, when Yonty Solomon will be playing at the Conway Hall in London as part of the 3rd annual Planet Tree Music Festival, whose director Lawrence Ball is with me. Lawrence, we come now to your own music. I think it has got connections with Satie and Sarabji, who we've been listening to, but it's also called ambient music, isn't it? What does that mean?
Well, I really think that music has evolved. It's evolving out of being purely a structure, and I think the word ambient is used in different fields. It was originally coined by Brian Eno, who... It's a rather strange story. He had a car accident and his friend had played him a record and he was too weak to get up to turn it off when his friend had gone. And he laid there listening to this thing over and over again. And he noticed that he was going in and out of listening to it quite involuntarily and in a very interesting way. And this led him to create the first so-called ambient music, which everyone has perhaps, if they call themselves ambient musicians, perhaps not exactly done justice to his aesthetic description.
So it's music which creates an ambience which you can kind of tune into or tune out to as you want, is that right?
It's really, I would say it's music that's dealing with the fringe of consciousness rather than a direct focus. We have to be very careful we don't confuse it with music, which is probably not worth focusing on at all.
Yeah, it does think ambient music, hairdressers, airports and so on.
Yes.
No, not that then.
Well, there is an overlap. I mean, Brian Eno has done music for airports, for
Yes,
instance.
of course, that lovely disc came out recently.
Yes.
But now, you yourself, Lawrence, I know work with healers and therapists and counsellors. What sort of function does ambient music, as you write it, have in that context?
Well, I developed a series of healing tones with an Alexander teacher over a period of years. It's basically a single tone with a very rich modulation of harmonics on top. It's like listening to an orchestra playing one note. And that certainly is an ambient form of expression. And it's something that you don't even need to focus on. It's like having a bath in sound. And that people find it very helpful for letting go of stress and tension.
Why aren't more musicians doing it? It seems extremely sensible to me.
I think professional musicians often, if they're a little bit neurotic, sometimes are afraid of straightforwardness.
I think you're right. Now, what are you going to be doing in the Planet Tree Festival yourself this time? What of your work can we come and hear?
There's an evening where I work on the 7th of November, a medium I've devised called Speak, Sing, Play, where poetry and music are threaded together, you might say, by sung abstract syllables of the poetry. So you have this fusion of the parallel streams of music and poetry. That's on the 7th. And Yonty Solomon's playing a piece of mine, in fact 2 pieces on the 13th. And I'm also accompanying a painting group in a very experimental evening on the 15th of November at Steiner Theatre, at Rudolf Steiner House.
The 2 venues for the festival are the Conway Hall in London and also in London, Rudolf Steiner House.
And Burghaus, Hampstead.
And Burghaus, Hampstead. Right, we're going to hear a bit of your own music now, Lawrence. What is this?
This is a piece from a forthcoming CD, which will be called Lattices. The track is called...
Lattices?
Yeah, that's
not lettuces.
Well, that'd also be a nice title. But no, Lattices. It's the cross-weaving of
strands.
Rhythms and strands.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it means. The piece is called Harmonic River, and it's for 3 pianos.
Lawrence Ball, we will listen to it now with, I'm sure, great delight. Thank you very much. Have a lovely 3rd annual Planet Tree Festival.
Thank you very much indeed.
I think that should be installed in all London Underground stations to reduce stress. I'm sure it would. Part of Harmonic River, written and multi-tracked to the keyboard by Lawrence Ball. His third annual Planet Tree Music Festival opens tonight in London. You can get tickets from the First Call agency, who are in the phone book. Of course, in the 17th century, there weren't any therapists or Alexander technique teachers around for composers to collaborate with. They only had clergy and the services of the church. Henry Purcell decided to take the actual words of the funeral service. In the midst of life we are in death, and the lines
executed.